Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 120 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Today I'm joined by Mando.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Jody's out. We have two great guests for everyone tonight. The first comes back to us from a galaxy far, far away. Welcome back, Galen.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Always great to be back.
Always great to have you. The next up, we have a senior contributor and podcaster from the Daily Dead News. Welcome to the show, James.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
So, yeah, great to have two great guests on tonight. James, since you're new to the show, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your fandom with Tales from the Crypt.
So I'm a senior contributor for Daily Dead. I've been writing them for several years, write features, reviews. I've also presented a few podcasts, which are kind of anniversary sort of shows, which I've done with things like The Crazies and Killer Clowns, where I've got to interview the cast and the crew sort of 30, 40 years on, which have been really great as well. And I think with Tales from the Crypt, I think my fandom started probably with the films, because in the UK, we didn't really get the TV show so much. We didn't have that like appointment viewing with Tales from the Crypt. A long story, but basically the UK never really knew what to do with American TV shows. You know that in the National Lampoon's European Vacation, the joke where they go to that English hotel and there's only 4 channels on the TV, that was actually British TV in the 90s. So there was nowhere really for Tales from the Crypt to sit. So we didn't really get the TV show. So it was the films that I kind of fell in love with, starting with Demon Knight, which was brilliant. And then I managed to get all the series when I was visiting the US. So I kind of got through it through the films, and then even the TV show, the Tales from the Crypt Keeper, the cartoon. So I sort of started sort of through there really, and basically, obviously, just with YouTube and such, you can watch all the other episodes. So I've kind of got on board with it through that.
That's awesome. Do you have any favorite episodes?
I think actually this one is probably my favorite, Confession.
Mm-hmm.
I think the others are, which is kind of similar in terms of like the sort of story. Is it Tooth of the Show? The one with David Paymer kills his wife and then tries to hide her on the train.
Yeah.
That kind of cat and mouse in a very sort of select setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow, I think, is great. And is it? I forget the name of it, but basically it's the one with the radio shows where they go to the house.
Oh, the new
Sort
one.
of-
The television terror.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Oh no,
All those are great.
I think it's New Arrival, the one with the
Yeah.
radio host. No, go
That
there.
was a TV house.
Oh, yes, that was
With,
great too.
David Warner,
Yeah.
from season 4.
I think just the reveal of that.
Oh,
And I think, and even with the series 7, even though some of the episodes don't hit as hard, I think when they do hit, they hit really well. Like,
agreed.
is it the Kidnapped or Kidnapper? I think that's a brilliant episode
With
as well.
Steve
Just 'cause it's so
Coogan.
dark.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't intentionally have someone from the UK on, but as someone from the UK, can you give us any more insight into season 7? Like, do you think you appreciate it more being from the UK, or?
I remember when it first came on TV, it's probably the only series I saw on TV, and I did think, wow, it's kind of for us. It's us. Because you saw all these stars like Ewan McGregor, who had just been in Train Spotting.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in it and stuff like that. And you just thought, oh, wow, this is all brilliant. It's over here. That's all crazy. And actually, there was a TV channel over here called Sky One, which was a bit like our HBO, and it showed it at prime time on a Sunday. It was probably the only season I think that did it. And yeah, it was kind of took me aback a little bit. It was really good. I was enamored with the fact that it was over here, and obviously we had the British Tales from the Crypt, but this one,
Right.
TV shows always seemed really American and really kind of glossy and jazzy, and then it came over here, and I was like, wow, what they can do with it? And it was it was good. I think they did well with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I think they were working with a lower budget, with a smaller budget, so you kind of that's evident in some areas.
Yeah, and the fact that they have like reinvent how they do the show, just the whole new crew, probably create a lot more headaches than they anticipated.
Yeah, I know that. Al Katz and Gil.
Well, the first
talked about that. Yeah.
Well, the first article I actually wrote for Daily Dead was an interview with Gil Adler on the 25th anniversary of Series 7.
Oh, cool.
Because I was trying to kind of pitch ideas, and I was getting Jonathan, the editor there, is great, but it was like, thanks, but no thanks. And I pitched this one. He's like, actually, that's great. Go with it. And Gil Adler was so generous with his time, like talked about an hour. And I think they're kind of, him and Al are kind of sort of English fans. Like he said how much he loved British comedy. And I think both him and Al's wives are from England, if I remember correctly. So like he was going on about all these Kind Hearts and Coronets and all these Ealing Studio comedies that he loved and he kind of wanted to kind of emulate in some way.
Yeah.
But then when he said when he got here, it was just no one wanted to work because it was the tax situation. So like he
Yes.
asked Roger Moore, and Roger was like, "Oh, great, but call me when you get back to LA. I don't want to work here because the tax goes through the roof."
Yeah, I think
So-
he had meant.
so I think they had-
I think I remember hearing him say. I think the one director he mentioned was Lewis Gilbert, who did Educate Rita. And,
Yeah, he
and,
mentioned him as
Shirley
well.
Valentine.
Mm.
Yeah, I think he had mentioned. I think he had mentioned him specifically was like on board until he found out they were actually shooting in London, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I thought you were shooting in L.A."
Yeah, I think even he mentioned Roger Moore was living in Switzerland at the time,
That's
and
right.
I think may have came over to do it. But yeah, it was sort of crazy. But it's the same. But even then, looking back now, it's amazing how they got those stars on the up and up. Like Ewan McGregor isn't the name he is now.
Right.
Neither
Daniel
Steve Coogan,
Craig.
neither
Yeah,
Daniel Craig.
Daniel
Exactly.
Craig blows my mind.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
wild.
So they got a lot of people before they kind of hit it big. I don't think they didn't get the big names arguably that they wanted to, but the people they've got since then are megastars.
Yeah.
Well, I think because the TV show can go much quicker than the movie, there can be someone in the movie that they like, or they know the movies can be big, so they can get them on Crypt before the movie comes out.
It's
So
interesting.
they can kind of they kind of have an
Yeah.
insider idea of who's going to blow up a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, there's like some really interesting casting here and there, like having like like on that same episode with Daniel Craig, like having the opera singer Uta Lemper on there, and other people like that you just would never imagine seeing, and then and then having like what's his name, Freddie Francis direct an episode, who did the original Tales from the Crypt, and like that's it's like it's a really fun some really fun gets they had in this season.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a couple. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say online, I see constantly people bashing the set of the season, and yeah, it's not as good, but it's not terrible. It's definitely not like unwatchable, like I've heard some people say.
It's not as I guess it's you could say it's not as inspired as like the peak seasons like 4 and 5, where it was like really they were just like constantly just hitting them out of the park every episode, just like really on point. I think it was hard for them to kind of get that kind of batting average again. But I think as a lot of series have that same experience. But I think there's still some that I think are I think it is kind of the whole season is kind of uniformly trash, where there are some some gems here and there, and I think this is definitely one of them.
I think as well the wraparounds with the Crypt Keeper. I think I think Gil said that he couldn't do what he wanted to do. I think he wanted to like make the Crypt Keeper like one of the Beatles and have him film at Abbey Road, but none of them could be Britishified, if you know what I mean. I think the intro to this the sort of opening to this one is the Crypt Keeper dressed as a dentist, which is obviously nothing British at all. So I think they were kind of hampered by that. I think they had to do that back in LA.
Yeah, well, I know. Like, some of them were kind of odd. Like, I know there's one where he's like basically Vito Corleone.
Right.
So it's like not British at all. Like, I think like making like very specific references that are decidedly not British. Which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think they just kind of like I think they were just running out of steam.
Yeah.
But before we get into the episode proper, Galen, I just want to give you a chance to talk about any projects that you're working on.
Yeah,
or about to work on.
well,
Hopefully,
I mean, as I'm sure some people brought up, I mean, it's been a very unique year with the strike. So I'm happy to be on the other side of it, so that I can actually talk about things that I've done.
Yeah.
But at this point, or things coming up, I've in the time that in this time that it hasn't been much on camera work, I've been doing a play that's a really crazy a theater piece out of that's been produced out of the Titmouse Animation Studio. They're responsible for like Big Mouth and Lower Decks and Beavis and Butthead, but they've built a little theater space in their warehouse. It's like the official like Titmouse warehouse now, and so this is their first production there, and we're doing a kind of what the director calls a Mando bibliodrama, taking the stories of King Solomon from Old Testament and the Hebrew text, and kind of doing this kind of wild, kind of literal interpretation of it with with giant puppet monsters and demons, and they've got like a live Moog score underneath and everything. It's very cool stuff. So we're for those in the Los Angeles area, we're doing that in Hollywood through January, and then we're going to do a week of performances in Japan
Oh wow.
in February. So
That's awesome.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So anyone in LA or Japan, Tokyo, can check that out.
All right.
Yeah, and then let's see.
I'll see if I can make it out.
Yeah. It's over in Hollywood, not too far.
Or in Japan.
And then I think the things off this year that I can now talk about. I did an episode of the Rose Byrne show, Physical. I had done an episode the previous season and came back on season 3. So you can people can check that out. I think that's about it.
No return to Imperial.
Even if I could talk about it, nothing. I mean, there's no word yet if if Boba Fett will have a second season, or or if there's any kind of overlap with that world in Mandalorian. But if and when that comes out, I won't be able to talk about it until after the fact. So, but
awesome.
Fingers crossed. That the famed desk clerk has more story to tell.
Was that the official name for the character?
I think Mos Espa desk clerk was, I think, the credited
Desk clerk.
Title. Hopefully, maybe at some point he'll get a name. We'll see.
You should give him a name.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I don't have my Star Wars name book in front of me, but I'm sure there's maybe I'll have a contest on my Instagram of name the Boba Fett character.
Right. And then just go straight Wesley Snipes and Blade 3 and just act like that character on set, create a backstory for him, 100%. Never break character, annoy the
Absolutely, yeah, and just have just have plumes of popped smoke coming from my dressing room.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, and before we get further, I have a special announcement. We talked a little bit about our friends Owlcats and Guild Adler, where they're actually going to be doing a special fundraising event in December. We're looking at the 16th. It'll be a live online event, similar to the Dead Easy reading we did, like similar setup. They're doing a panel called Joys and Jolts, where they're going to talk to a group of masters of horror about why they love horror and how they got into horror. I don't want to give out the names yet because I don't know how much of it's confirmed, but it's a great panel. Everyone's going to want to check it out. Again, we'll be asking for a small donation, and then we'll give you a code to go to the YouTube channel. This time, the charity is going to be Operation Stand Down, which we're doing it for, I think, the Tennessee branch, which is an organization that connects veterans with careers and community and crisis services. So again, get those tax dollars out while you can before the end of the year. Everything's appreciated. I guess we're still finalizing some of the details, but we'll have them very soon. So monitor our social media accounts for those details. But I'm almost certain it'll be on the 16th. Probably midday.
Cool.
I love Jason's special announcements because I'm always surprised too because he doesn't clue me into anything. This is all news to me.
I honestly I didn't know until pretty much yesterday.
I like it that way. Whenever Jason says his announcement, I get excited too. I'm like, ooh, what's happening on our show that I don't know about?
That's fun.
All right, so mark your calendars. All right, tonight though we are talking about the 7th season episode Confession, episode 11, which came out on July 5th. 1996. Unfortunately, Jody's not here, so Mando,
You know how much I love doing this.
Yeah, tell us what happens.
Any of you guys who are longtime listeners of the show, you know this is about to be a shit show. So just say so we open up on the Crypt Keeper, and he's an optometrist. And I will say at the beginning, I thought he missed the mark by not using the term difocals, and then he got it at the end, and I was like, difocals. Basically giving an eye exam, and he wasn't much to the intro. He actually mentioned that his eyes probably went bad from watching too much Tales from the Crypt, which is kind of interesting to say in season 7. But then we open up on the episode with a severed head with a headless body in an alley, who turns out being a dead woman who's been beheaded by a serial killer in England or in London, because London's never had any serial killers before, as they say. But and then they basically find and oh my god, I forgot his name, Marty Jason. The main character, or there's two main characters in this, really. One being played by one is Evans, who they find walking around the alley, who they immediately accuse of the murders because he was walking around the crime scene. And then Jack Lynch is the hard-nosed best detective in the world who loves to bowl. And to summarize this, I'm gonna be brief on this. I'm not gonna give you the synopsis like Jody does. I was not prepared to do that. But basically, we go into this cat and mouse game of the detective constantly trying with circumstantial evidence, trying to convict Evans of this crime. Evans turns out to be a horror writer, which makes him an easy target for someone who may be committing a crime. And they even bring up some of their past scripts. They even bring up an interesting note saying, "You also wrote for Tales from the Crypt?" And he goes, "Yeah, but that show was canceled anyways. They probably deserved it," or something to that effect. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I need to know from our friends Al and Gil if that was just some like intentional snarkiness there," which I hope it was, just to be honest.
Yeah, that was very good.
And then later on, even they ransack his apartment, and they find all kinds of literature and like ads from like these fetish dungeons down there. And one of the books they find is called it's based on the Satanic Verses from Anton Szandor LaVey. I forgot what they called it on this one, but it's a satanic book, and it was written by Gil Adler and Alan Katz, which I thought was a really, really fun touch in the episode too. And for some reason, I imagine Al and Gil just watching that and laughing their asses off and enjoying that scene. Even I kind of hope that they didn't even tell them that was going to be in there, and they just happened to put the name on the prop just to surprise them. But then they eventually go and search his house, and they do find, they arrest him, and then he goes and he's calling his girlfriend, I believe, and telling her, "Hey, I need you to pack your stuff up, leave town. Also grab the black square bag in the back of the cabinet and take that with you." And the phone's being bugged, so the copiers, everything, which all police station phones are bugged, so that was kind of an oversight on his end. But they eventually they go to his house, and they actually find a head in a jar, which he claims he bought from a freak show. And they don't believe him. And then the next scene is he's being basically it's two other detectives talking about how great Lynch is and how he put another one away. And then we go to Lynch in his apartment. He walks in, drops his bowling bag down, opens it up, pulls half the bowling ball out, and the severed head. And then they still had a great set piece here when he goes to the fridge, puts a severed head in the fridge, and then gets himself an ice cold beer.
Yeah.
I mean, severing heads is thirsty work.
So basically, we have the classic case of the police officer who is the serial killer who's trying to convict someone else of their crimes.
Yeah.
Which another interesting piece is they mentioned that Evans actually he was writing a script based on a serial killer that only hunts other serial killers, which is so Dexter-esque, which would be kind of what Lynch does in the whole situation.
Right, he's not the whole extra meta level.
Predates that.
Yeah, and I don't mean Lynch obviously isn't killing people because they're bad people, but it is still how, if you watch Dexter, the cat and mouse game between Dexter and the other detectives, very similar to that. So I thought it was a really cool, nice touch, and I really hope that turns out that someone from Showtime was watching this and was like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We should." We should make that show.
Yeah, 'cause I think the books were probably, I don't know exactly when, but they've been around for a little while, even when that show came on.
And
So they probably were out at the time.
I like
True.
I couldn't get into the books, and I tried.
I've heard, yeah,
And-
they're not
and
great in
Even
ways.
the show, realistically, only had like 3 great seasons.
Yep.
Yeah, it had a lot of stinkers. But Michael C. Hall, though, in 6 Feet Under is phenomenal. If no one's seen that
He's
show,
an incredible actor.
God, he's so good.
That can't be overstated how good he is.
Okay, so it looks like
He's
the books came out in 2004. So actually, we're a little bit later. So, okay, it's a quicker turnaround than I expected.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mando. Good job. You get a star.
Yay.
James, you can start us off. What did you think of this episode?
I actually love it. I think it's one of my favorite episodes. And I remember watching it when it first came out. I was like 14 years old and I was just enamored by it. I was blown away. And again, it's more just the simplicity of it. I love the sort of cat and mouse sort of scenario of it. Like, I'm a big fan of The Thing, and it kind of reminds me of that, where basically the performances, the story is carried by those two performances, because a lot of it, half of it is just them two in a room talking back and forth. And if they don't sort of work together, if there's no chemistry there, or the script isn't that good, then it kind of falls apart, but it's not.
Mhm.
And again, I think it's just a juxtaposition of Ciarán Hinds and Suzy Izzard acting sort of one off against each other. And again, they look, and their sort of appearances are very different. Obviously, Ciarán Hinds is that archetypal, hard-nosed kind of cop, and Suzy Izzard isn't. It's more, they are a writer, they're more creative, they're sort of more think with their sort of head kind of thing. I just think I think it's a really, really good episode. And again, like I said before, it reminds me slightly of the Two for the Show, where you have two people in a confined space just going back and forth with each other.
Yeah. All right, Galen.
Yeah, I definitely echo the same. I think this is wouldn't say this is necessarily one of my favorite episodes of all time. That list is so so extensive, but it's definitely in the in the probably top 20, and I definitely probably one of the first, top top 2 or 3 in season 7. I think there's a couple others that are pretty fun. I really like the Ewan McGregor one is very fun in a very different kind of way. But this one, yeah, again, I think really I appreciate how refined, how kind of restrained it is in, as opposed to some of the others. It is kind of just a kind of more of a classic thriller. And I really I didn't even think of the comparison to Two for the Show, which is another one of my favorite episodes. I think James is spot on with that. I think just as far as the having the two characters kind of the tete-a-tete back and forth, kind of one trying to outdo the other. I think it's obviously a little more tragic in the case in the outcome for Suzy Izzard's character, but but that just letting the two of them go back and forth. I mean, just two incredible actors, and watching their back and forth. The subtext is just teeming. It's just screaming in certain moments. You can as each are trying to best the other, and I think it's one of you don't get a lot of those episodes where it really is the actors carrying the story. It doesn't rely as much on the gore or the that kind of spectacle, and it really they really do. I think because of the budget constraints, they really were able to have a really fun episode like this that really does rely on the performances. So I like this one a lot, and I love the it still allows for some really great technical flourishes. I think the tracking shots in the beginning are terrific. I think this is a terrific episode.
Thank you.
I do like one of those Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, good. No, you go ahead.
I do like that you mentioned it. I actually noticed that as well. The sort of tracking shot that starts off, and it starts a bit sort of neo noir, and sort of like the jazz music, late at night, the rain, the detectives getting out with the hats and the Macs, slowly follows them through the club to the toilet, and then it just pans up and it's just a severed head. So you've got all this like lovely build up, and then it's like, oh,
Really good
you know,
payoff. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's It's also worth noting that cinematographer. I know he did a few episodes this season as Robin Vidgen, who did both the I think probably most notable did the Hellraiser 1 and 2 and Nightbreed for Clive Barker.
Very
So
cool.
there's and those films of course are very visually satisfying. So it's I think he definitely brings some of that to this.
Okay, Mando.
Yeah, I was a fan of this too, and you guys both brought it up. But I think the episodes that really shine in this season with the constrained budgets when they do have two awesome actors just giving great performances. And but yeah, I thought this was a great episode with the two actors playing off each other. Suzy Izzard, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I kind of got almost, if anybody's seen the whole West Memphis 3 documentaries or the Paradise Lost documentaries,
Oh, yeah.
I kind of got that vibe from this because it's basically the detective found a mark who they knew was into horror films, was into I'd say more extreme sexual fetishes,
Right.
and was being targeted basically because of what he did extracurricularly as opposed to any actual hard evidence. So I think I kind of really felt for the guy I'm like, dude, that could be me. I'm a horror movie fan. I like some weird stuff. I like heavy metal. And I really kind of was rooting for, I feel like I feel like the whole episode, I was actually rooting for Suzy Izzard's character, for Evans.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really, really cool way they played off each other, because you get that vibe and they don't really hide it. They don't really hide that. You get that vibe from the beginning. Because even the beginning, when he's bringing his bowling bag in, I remember one of the detectives mentions like, "Oh, maybe you have a severed head in your bag," and holy shit, he did.
It's fun
So
it's fun that they can drop something like that, and that it doesn't, and that it kind of goes, because you have a certain expectation, it kind of the audience kind of overlooks that.
Yeah. And I really like when they do that, because it's the whole episode. I think most of us that have been hardened horror fans are thinking this is what's going to happen. This is going to be, we kind of know where it's going, I think. And then when it goes there and they do it very well, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I was a fan.
It's almost kind of it's almost like a reverse, like Usual Suspects, where it's like, you find out it's it's actually the detective who's pulling one over on us, as opposed to the suspect.
Yeah, but I'd say one of the maybe the best episode of so far of season 7. I don't remember, but if not one of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to go
the
back.
West Memphis 3 is a good, really great reference. I didn't even think of that, but that's totally spot on.
Yeah, I'll hop in now. Yeah, I really like this episode. Like I said, is it better? It's probably one of the best season 7 episodes. Is it better than the best of the other seasons? I don't think so, but like I said, it's well directed, really well acted, got great performers. Yeah, that scene where the lower level cop, it's like Scampy or something. I forget his name.
Yes.
It's like shrimp or something. I have seafood on the mind. Yeah, he like reaches into his bag. He's like, "Do you ever touch other man's balls without permission?" Like that was a pretty badass line. And then you see the bowling ball, and you're like, okay. So then at the very end, you know that he's the killer the whole time. And then when the other when he reaches in, and you're like, oh, is there a severed head in the bowling ball? And then you see, oh no, it's just the top of the bowling ball. Like just the balls on him to bring a severed head into a police station like that. It was pretty great. Yeah, the back and forth and all the interrogation scenes is really well done, well shot, well acted. The dialogue's witty. I did keep wondering. I don't know, that lower level cop guy just kind of walking around. I thought he would play into it somehow. So at one point, I thought he was actually the killer, and he was putting the two guys against each other, like planting evidence. I thought it was going to be like the guy you least the guy who seems like the quote weakest.
Yeah,
it'd been a bit too much of a twist, probably.
Yeah, I think if they went that direction, it'd be like a high tension style twist where it's like, hold on, that doesn't make sense like at all.
So everyone was the same person. I see.
And how ballsy was Lynch by basically just wouldn't you just leave that severed head in your car?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like
right.
some
Just
fucking-
bringing it to the scene. Yeah.
I like the
Like,
fact
and-
he's probably
and
just
who
come
wa-
from the murder though. Like he's done it. It's like, I haven't got time.
Oh,
I'll go straight
right.
to the police station. It's
Yeah.
fine. I've got
But
the
like,
that makes
vehicle.
sense.
I mean,
I've
your
got the
head's gonna
vehicle.
like start
It's fine.
leaking at some point. Like,
And I also
that
forget
poison-
too, in the UK, you guys actually have a really good public transit system, so you can actually you don't have to drive places. Which
Oh yeah.
damn you, auto industry.
If you tried to drive away from that murder scene in Soho, you'd probably be within a 5-minute radius. You know, 2 hours
Yeah.
later, you're not getting anywhere. And on CCTV, they would just track you.
So yeah, I thought it was a really solid episode. Just to get to the talent, this was directed by Peter Hewitt. His one of his first movies was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which again is a personal landmark
Oh, yeah.
favorite of mine.
Great.
The Borrowers. He did a movie called Thunderpants about a kid who can fart. That's like a superpower.
I've heard
I'm
about
not
that.
sure
One.
what
I've
that's
never
about.
I've never
haven't
watched
seen
it,
it.
but yeah, I know
I
that.
never,
then he
never
did-
sought that one out.
Then he did like the first live action Garfield movie.
Yep.
And then Suzy Izzard, yeah, Suzy Izzard, from Amazing Comedy, some movies as like Mystery Man, Shadow of the Vampire. She was in Valkyrie, another Gil Adler joint.
Oh, cool.
And then she was also in Hannibal with a great little stint as a serial killer.
Yeah.
What is she in Hannibal?
She's
Okay.
like kind of the later seasons. She's kind of like
Oh,
another,
in the TV
another
show.
kind of-
Okay. In the
like,
TV
kind of
show.
pops up.
Okay.
Sorry, TV show, not the movie.
I was thinking the movie. I was like, I don't remember her in the movie.
Yeah. I also really liked her that I think it was a Showtime show she did the Riches with Minnie Driver.
Yes.
That was really fun.
And then Ciarán Hinds, he was in The Road to Perdition, one of the Laura Croft movies, Munich, the TV show Realm. He had a scene in a couple scenes in Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 2, The Woman in Black, and he was also Steppenwolf in the Justice League movie.
Yeah, I realized that. Yeah, I always he's an actor I've always known, but I realized that some of his more well-known works kind of came after this. Like Road to Perdition, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, where are we? Okay, we're talking about Van Helsing. All right, let's do the comic comparison. Let me bring it up. Structure-wise, it's relatively the same as the episode, except here we have a kind of middle-aged schlubby guy. He's driving home one night, and one of his headlights is broken. And in the one headlight, he finds a dead woman lying on the street that's obviously hit by a car. He obviously he doesn't have access to a phone or anything. He can't find anyone to help her, so he gets in his car and tries to drive to get some help. But then the cops come up behind him and think that he's trying to leave the scene of the crime, and that he's the one that hit the woman. So they arrest him, and they call like the chief or whatever, and he's asleep or whatever that night, and so he's going to come in. But in the meantime, he tells them to start interrogating him, and he keeps denying it, even though he has a broken headlight and there's like broken glass. So basically, the police beat the shit out of him for like 10 hours. Well, he just keeps denying it over and over and over again. And the lieutenant shows up, and turns out it's his wife that was the one killed, which just makes them beat up this guy even harder. And then they have the forensics guy go up to the chief and says, "Hey, we checked the headlight and the glass doesn't match the glass by the victim." And he's like, "Well, that doesn't matter. I'm sure he's the one that did it. Tell him to beat him harder." Wow. Is what they do. Like they break out like little pipes.
Damn.
Jeez.
And the forensics guy is like, "Oh, I'm probably wrong. It's fine. Just keep beating up this this poor guy."
It sounds like it sounds like 2020 United States police work. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then obviously, after a whole night of torture, he confesses. And then the lieutenant's like, "Okay, well, we got our man. I'm gonna go home and start preparing for my wife's funeral." And of course, they show him going home. He stops at a store to get a package. He walks in his garage, and turns out that in the package is a new headlight for his car because he's the one that killed the woman who was his wife, and basically pinned on this other guy.
That's interesting. That actually has kind of harkens back to Two for the Show, where the interrogating cop is covering up the murder of his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Having
I,
that
I really like actually I really like this comic. It's one of those things where like, God damn it. This was written, 70 years ago, whatever it is, and we're still kind of it's still not much has changed. That's just kind of depressing, but it's a
Sadly.
really well done comic.
and this was in Tales from the Crypt.
Um, uh, I don't think it's a Tales from the Crypt.
Is
I
it
don't
like
have it in
a
front
shock
of me.
suspense stories
Yeah,
or
I'm
crime
looking it
suspense
up.
stories? Yeah.
Just keep talking, but
Talk
it
amongst
doesn't
yourselves. I'll
have
give you a topic. Okay.
it doesn't have like the witch or any of the other like
Right. Yeah, because I
throw
know they do
people.
a number of shock and crime suspense stories.
It's
Okay,
yeah, the first panel says it's
number
shock suspense story.
shock suspense story number 4.
Cool. Yeah, it definitely kind of seems like more of that
Yeah.
that brand. Yeah.
Jason, I don't know if you mentioned it because I zoned out for a second, as I tend to do, because I was looking at something. But
Mhm.
I noticed that the artwork in this is really cool. I really like the opening panels of this. I love the way they draw the cityscape and how gritty it looks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite comics I think we've read. At least it's really
Oh
up there.
wow,
It's a really
That's
good, it's a
awesome.
really good comic.
Yeah,
Some
of
high
the,
praise.
the visuals in some are really terrific. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts before we do our episode ratings?
One thing I think the thing that hits hard with this one, and as well as the kidnapper, is the fact there's no comeuppance for the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the roles are completely reversed, like to the point where usually most Tales from the Crypt, it's like the good guy on their knees, and then there's some twist of fate or something, which means the roles are reversed. The bad guy gets it. In this one, it's the other way around. Like the bad guy's kind of on the ropes. Suzy Izzard kind of has his number without really trying, and then all of a sudden it's this sort of twist of fate. And unlike Two for the Show, where someone who's bad does their comeuppance, it's not in this case. The bad person gets away scot-free, and the good person is sort of thrown into jail. And I think a bit like the kidnapper, that's the thing that's a lot more rawer about this episode. I think is the fact there is no morality tale there. It's no one lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
I forgot about the kidnapper. That was a spectacular one too.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think I compare them both because there's just something a lot more darker about them because it's just that kind of final kind of. You're kind of left raw by it. It's like I've just watched an episode of Black Mirror. Like it's that kind of. There's no coming back from this.
Yeah.
There's no silver lining.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. And they also both star like famous famous comedians playing more darker roles, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess there is some. Yeah, I guess with the kidnapper, there's a slightly bit more moral question to Steve Coogan's character in that, whereas in this one is like someone that a character that we're set up to suspect, and then it turns out is completely innocent, kind of like what Mando was mentioning with the West Memphis 3 kind of comparison of someone who like might kind of go against kind of implicate themselves with some of their interests and that sort of thing, kind of be a target for that, but is in fact completely innocent and is kind of used as a patsy for the guilty party. So yeah.
I wonder if this was one of the first instances in TV or film that someone's internet history is used against them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is one of the few that really does have that, as an element, as a plot element.
It's probably the only Tales from the Crypt episode that even mentions the internet.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Because they pull up his IMDb sort of history as well. I think
that's right.
And his video rentals was probably the last TV show to do that as well.
Right. Well, yeah, because I think IMDb was. I think it was 95 when that was launched, like 94, 95 when that was launched. So yeah, it was very fresh.
Yeah.
And I think it adds to it as well, because obviously Jack's got all this kind of resource at his fingertips of like, previous search history, stuff like that. And Suzy Izzard's just sort of going off the cuff.
Right.
It's like,
well, I was wondering.
Well, he even brings up at one point, like he kind of doesn't, I think he says he doesn't want a lawyer.
Right.
That he's just gonna kind of wing it himself, which is, man, that's a bad idea. My dad advice for the week is, if the cops ask you any questions, ask for a lawyer. Like, I don't care what it is. If they say what time it is, you ask for your lawyer.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I was wondering about like privacy law in England versus America. If like you need a warrant to look up someone,
I don't know about in the legal system, but my company's based in Germany, and I had to take a whole a whole course about I forgot what they call it, but the German privacy laws, which I think are far reaching throughout Europe too, which is pretty much stricter than ours are here in the States.
Yeah, obviously we had the big
For the
sort of
better.
GDPR thing a few
Yes,
years ago,
yes,
which I think a lot of US companies adhere to, just because I think there's so many sort of customers
Mhm.
and kind of people like that based in Europe. Again, I don't know if the UK or England is beholden to it anymore because we've come out of the EU. Again, my European politics is shocking, but I think I don't think we're not as tethered so much to Europe anymore, which is a shame. But yeah, I think they are a lot more stringent, sort of for the better of the consumers, effectively.
Yeah, even
that's-
with simple stuff they do, like you can't record a protest to use later on in police proceedings. You can only do it if it turns violent. There's a lot of stuff they do to protect the citizens, which is good. It's very good.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Cool.
I only know that because my company makes surveillance systems. That's how I know the surveillance.
All right. Okay.
All right, let's do our episode rating. We do 0 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. You can do half points. Galen, what do you give this episode?
0 to 5.
Yeah, 0 to 5, half points are allowed.
I'd give it a 4. I'd give it a solid 4. I think, I think this is, as we've talked about, this does cover some familiar territory, but I think and again, it doesn't quite pack the punch of some of the previous seasons, but I think again, I think it really stands out in this season, for the performances, really, as we said, really letting the actors carry the episode, and I think, you have just two people at the top of their game here, so that's just an ideal circumstance for that. So yeah, I give it solid 4.
All right, James.
I'm going to go for 5. I remember, like I said, watching this episode when it first came out. I loved it. I was enamored with it. It was kind of my first taste for the TV show of Tales from the Crypt. Like I said, I think the acting's really, really good. Even though I think the portrayal of the police is a little weird. They have like two sets that are kind of old, like 1930s detectives. Then they have like the non-detectives looking like SWAT team, and then they have Jack that's kind of like a John McClane plays by his own rules kind of detective. So they are kind of like merging all three of the polices into one. But yeah, I just think it's brilliant, and it's different from a lot of other Tales from the Crypt. Like, it's not gore heavy, it's not effects heavy, but it is more character driven, and it's more, the acting has to stand up. And also, obviously, they wouldn't do this, but I think this episode could be another 15 or 20 minutes longer and still not miss a beat. Like, it feels they could have really played out that back and forth cat and mouse.
Oh, I agree.
Like I said, with Suzy Izzard, like off the cuff, just saying, well, no class here, that was written on the toilet above the dead person. Is this someone that's recently been passed up for promotion? Obviously, someone's very physical. They do sporting, maybe bowling. Like, just off the cuff, that kind of the fact that he has, Jack Lynch's number. I just think that back and forth is really good and just sways so much. It's just a shame that that Evans character decided to confess to seemingly nothing at the end. But yeah, I think it's just great episode. I think it's my number one for me. Again, I think it's a lot of it is nostalgia. I saw it at that age where it was just like it gripped me and thought, yes, this is brilliant.
Oh, definitely.
Nostalgia's a hell of a drug. All right, Mando.
I'm at a 4 with this. I'm with Galen on this one. One of the better episodes of season 7. Not like probably my top 10 of all time, but man, but I totally get it, James. Like, when it's one of those episodes where it's like when you hit that at that right age. Like, I think all of us have those horror movies or whatever, anything genre related or anything cartoon related that we hit at just the right time and we latch onto that and we kind of fall in love with it, which I absolutely, one of the most fun things about doing this now for 120 episodes is hearing this wide variety of episodes that people like and people love. So I can't quite go 5 on this, but this was, I really, really enjoyed this episode. Whereas at first when I was like, oh God, it's another mystery one, I was like, please no. And then it turned out to be so much more than I expected.
Yeah, I'm on the 4 train as well. Solid episode, not classic, but Again, if it hits you the right way, the right time, I can't blame anyone for giving it a 5. I still maintain Return of the Living Dead 2 is better than number 1, only because that's the first zombie movie I saw as a kid. So I have a
Yeah.
really soft spot for that
But I will
movie.
say number 3 was my favorite because that also saw that at the right time and had a very big
Mhm.
crush on that actress.
Oh yeah, well that kind of
Yeah,
it stands in a category of its own. That one,
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. I um I would be remiss not to shout out they brought in a lot of different like crew for this season, and the composer of this is a guy named Julian Knott, who was who I knew as writing all the music for the Wallace and Gromit shorts and films.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that classic theme that everyone knows from those shorts in the feature is it was composed by this guy Julian Nutt. So it was cool to kind of see him do something completely different for this one, so this kind of like smoky noir kind of thing. So that was cool.
I'm hearing that in my head now. You said that. I'm hearing the Wallace and
Oh,
Gromit theme.
it's a total earworm, that theme.
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring that up because like those Wallace and Gromit movies, a lot of the people from this season did voices in those, either in the show or in the
That's
movies.
right.
I
Yeah.
kept seeing like that, even like just more small bits.
Mhm.
So it's definitely something that I kept seeing kind of coming up over and over again.
Right. Yeah, and that was right when right when those first two shorts were I think the one that won the Oscar, The Wrong Trousers, we kind of hit the scene that those and and it was kind of um I think it was they got popular on PBS and stuff at that time originally, and those were I mean I was obsessed with those as a kid when those came out.
Okay, Mondo, tell us about your song of the day.
Okay, so I don't have anything that fits in with this episode at all, but I do want to highlight a band that I think just put out one of the best albums of 2023. 2020. Yeah, that's the year we're in. A band from Colorado by the name of Wayfarer. And they did a record a few years back called fuck, I'm sorry, now it's killing me. Like,
Do we
I
sell
think it's like,
couches?
huh?
Do we sell
What's that?
couches?
God damn it, get the fuck out of here, Jason. That's Wayfair. And fuck Wayfair, because they make you they want you to sign up for a fucking account to look at anything. Like, you see an ad with some shit you like and you click on it, it's like, oh, give us your email address the 30th time. It's like, fuck you. No, I don't want more spam from you assholes. But they do have some neat stuff. Even weren't they implicated in that QAnon like child trafficking, like fucking
yeah.
conspiracy theory? Like, people were like going deep onto their website and finding like weird links to like a shed that would be there for like $20,000 and called like Jessica. And they're like, dude, that's just our developers putting placeholders in for fun, like, and learning how to program. Like, fuck off. But anyhow, I digress. Wayfarer's latest album that just came out in October is called American Gothic, and like most of my picks, it is metal, but they do like this black metal styled with, like, I don't even know how to explain it aside from like it's the album is Wild Wild West theme. Like, that's kind of the story. It's a story. It's a concept record, and it sounds like they melded those like old school country sounds. I'm not talking the poppy bullshit they have nowadays, but the old school country sounds with this American black metal, and I think it just sounds phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of fucking people out there that are going to be like, nah, it's not true black metal. Yeah, well, go fuck yourself. It's great, and what they're doing is a step above most modern metal. Just to be honest, like, it's very creative and very creative, but also fantastically written, which is not an easy thing to do. So the song I'm picking off this is "To Enter My House Justified," because I love the lyrics on it. And even the record itself, you buy the vinyl, the lyric sheet is an old-timey newspaper that you open up, and it has all the lyrics in there to make it look like it was straight out of it. And I just love it's a complete presentation, in my opinion. And in my opinion, the at least top 3 of the year for me.
Nice. I'll go check that out because I listened to that indigenous band you recommended last week that I'm not going to try to pronounce. What is it called again?
Nyachi. Oh god, I can't. I'm a little buzzed. I can't.
That's fine. But yeah, I was listening to that as I was driving my family out to Phoenix for Thanksgiving. I'm like driving like through the desert. There's cactuses all around me, and I was like vibing to the music. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes much like TV and movies, it's just an album or a song just hits you at the right time.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? Like I still remember a band, God, man, like my brain's not working right now. I can picture the front. I have a cassette tape of it because they only released it on cassette, and I ripped it to my iTunes. But I still remember like on one of our rare snowstorms in Las Vegas, driving, and that just came on, and the right song came on. And I was like, "Fuck, this is great." I'm gonna find that tape now after we're done. Listen to it because now I'm into it because it's all cold out here and gross. But that's one of the beautiful things about media, right? It's like you latch on to something like that at the right time, and it's this is a beautiful thing, man. So what'd you think of it? What'd your family think of it?
Well, I found the one that was a little more folksy.
Okay,
you recommended. So I did that, and I did that. I did that thing where you can put the speakers more towards the front of the car. So the
Okay,
kids are playing on their iPads; they don't care. And my wife, I was driving, so my wife told me to just play whatever I wanted. So I'm like, all right, we'll see how this goes. And she was kind of into it. It wasn't like entirely her thing, but I think she appreciated it. And she's like, I thought you said this was metal. So then I played a song from one of the other albums. She's like, okay, got it.
When I saw them at a Fire in the Mountain festival up in Wyoming, they played a full acoustic set, and it was fucking badass. I think one of the first bands we saw though when we went there.
I think that's one of my favorite. Is there a genre name for that, where like a really heavy band does a more chill, kind of acoustic-y, but not like gimmicky
Not
album?
really. That's kind of what Amigo the Devil is. I would just call it American folk, to be honest with you, because I think it all falls under that blanket. But yeah, watching them play in Wyoming with the mountains in the background outside was just it was just beautiful.
Like, oh god, what's the band that did Opeth?
Yeah,
they have that one album that's just more chill.
Damnation.
Yeah, I love that album.
That's one of my favorite records of all time, like top 5 of all time for me, easy.
Yeah.
And it's a record. When they announced it, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna like this, and then I got it, and I was like, this is unreal because it's still very dark. It's a very heavy record.
Dark. Yeah, if you can be heavy without all that distortion, you're just working extra hard for it, and that I appreciate that.
I agree.
Alrighty. All right, Jody's not here for horror news, so we're gonna skip that for tonight. I didn't have time to put out anything for the Patreon bit because I'm still like post Thanksgiving hangover.
I got it real fast. Just a little bit of horror news. By the time you hear this, it'll be out in theaters. Godzilla -1.
Oh yes.
I am a fucking huge Godzilla fan. I'm so excited. I got my ticket for Thursday. I'm super excited. I'm going to watch it in the recliner on Thursday because I'll be tired. And I'm going to watch it in IMAX, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah.
James, you haven't seen that movie yet, have you?
No, I've not. I don't think it comes out over here just yet. Anyway, I've not seen any advertising for it just yet, but I'm going to be riffing on Mondo's kind of excitement and enthusiasm for it. So I'll wait for it when it comes out.
Well, I was thinking about this because I rewatched Godzilla versus King Kong a couple months ago, and what I realized was that it's the way that movie is shot is more like you're watching a wrestling match, like you're standing next to Godzilla and King Kong, and they're kind of doing their thing, which is cool. It's cool watching those two characters going at it, but it seems makes it more mundane in a way, less impressive. Whereas like this movie is much more you're seeing it from the ground, like you would, like a person would. Well, that's so much more terrifying seeing these like behemoths coming down upon you.
Well, it's done by Toho again, so it's it's going to be that style, which is awesome. Whereas obviously King Kong versus Godzilla was more meant for like the big theatrical. Like this one is definitely not, and it's nothing wrong with that. It definitely wasn't aimed at a Western audience.
Yeah,
it's more so they aimed it for their audience and realized that all of us kaiju fans like I am are gonna go see it because we loved all the originals growing up. So
yeah, it just didn't even occur to me until like the trailers for this one came up. I was like, oh yeah, this is because I was like, this trailer ain't scarier than anything in any of the other Godzilla movies. We've got the American ones recently, and I was trying to figure out why. And then when I watched Kong versus Godzilla, it occurred to me how because it's all being filmed like more from above, it's as if like they were my size and I'm watching them fight. Where this one is like you're on the ground, and that's what's terrifying about those scared situations.
Yeah, but Jason, you're almost as tall as Godzilla, so it's good. I would watch Godzilla versus Kong versus Jason Stein.
apologies for the likely repeat, but I haven't listened to the last couple episodes, but I'm assuming you guys talked about the People Under the Stairs remake.
Very,
Yeah.
very briefly, but yes,
Yeah.
yes, pretty excited for that.
Oh yeah,
Especially coming from Jordan Peele's production company, which I think are going to do it, and I
Mhm.
think they'll do an amazing job on it.
yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic because that is
Yeah.
I think a sacred text for me, and I think that film is just a flawless production. But
That's a movie that the first time I saw it, I definitely didn't get it. I was probably too young to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
it. And then as I got older and watched it again, I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot going on in this, and it's
Ooh, yeah.
really good and terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it was one of those
Crazy.
because I wasn't a big horror fan growing up, but I think that came on cable, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Because I like weird kind of, I always like kind of weird
Yeah.
stuff, like Lindian stuff and things like that. And I was like, "Whoa, this is completely different from any horror film I've seen." I was like, "This is fantastic," you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that just hit. Yeah, one of the ones you just don't realize it. I think you summed it up, Mondo. It's like I remember watching it and goes, "Why is he dressed in leather?"
Yeah.
Actually?
Right.
Maybe
Yes.
that's his. Maybe that's his house hunting gear. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I won't ask any more questions about it.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and that's great
In
because
my closet, like fuck, it's
right. Well, it's great because it's the possibilities are fun because that was of course those actors were the famous couple from Twin Peaks,
Right.
and so
Oh, I didn't.
so you wonder like what would be the kind of equivalent of that now if they wanted to go in that direction of that there's a lot of fun possibilities there.
Definitely. Yeah, and if I can just bring up one of the things we talked about it before, Arrow Video came out with the Hellraiser the box set, which has the work print of Bloodline, which I finally watched. I've watched the entire box set now, and the work print for Bloodline is way better than Bloodline. And I like Bloodline because I think when it came out again, I saw it in theaters in '99 or 2000 when it came out, and I was in high school. But I will say the work print is very different. The narrative is much better in it, and they very specifically mention that the true director's cut is lost and it'll never surface.
Yeah.
Wow.
But ties in Tales from the Crypt goes Kevin Yeager, and the work print though is definitely a different image from the actual theatrical release, and I think it's better. And I wish I had that in the 4K format, not in like they present it from a VHS 4:3 ratio format, which is still fine. I highly recommend anyone who's into Hellraiser go buy this fucking box set. It's worth everything.
Yeah, I really want to watch the work print, but I just can't justify the money to buy all these other movies I already have, like on multiple
Yeah.
formats.
Dude. But
So
in
I'll figure it out.
4K, like all I'm gonna
That's
say
true.
is one of the beauties of Hellraiser is also watching the set pieces.
Mhm.
And in 4K, you see so much more of the set pieces. I was picking up stuff. My wife was picking up stuff that we've seen those movies a million times and never picked up before. So Jason, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's worth it. If you want, come to Vegas. You can just borrow mine
There you
and
go.
then bring it back to me at some point.
Or maybe someone will get it for me for Hanukkah. We'll see.
It's not gonna be me, but some of mine.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. I haven't seen some of the latter Hellraisers, but yeah,
Ooh,
that's
don't stop after 4.
okay.
Well,
yeah,
so I will go by 5 being okay.
Okay.
5 was
Which
not
one's-
terrible, but a lot of the later ones, Doug Bradley had mentioned at one time in a Q&A that they were just detective stories they wrote, and they realized like, well, we have the rights to Pinhead, so just throw Pinhead in there.
Right. And that's
And it was an afterthought. Yeah.
right. So it's always
Well-
it always feels like there's a story. It's a story about blah 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 blah, and then Pinhead.
Yeah, it'd be like fucking having Bluey the dog, and then somehow Pinhead
And
just shows
Pinhead.
up in there. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, in our prolific Tales from the Crypt, I think set designer or editor Rick Boda directed a lot of those latter ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I feel bad disparaging him because he's like part of the Crypt family, but
It was Inferno. Inferno actually has some really good ideas in it. Just like I remember our good friend Dr. Natalie, who's been on the show before. She recommended I rewatch it, and I rewatched it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is way better than I remember. Then I watched number 6, and I was like, "Oh, this is way worse than I remember." But
Is that the one that was that's from the Sinister director?
I don't know. That's one. It's got the detective in it, and
Yeah, I
he's
know.
trying
Yeah,
to
I know.
like solve a
It
murder.
doesn't narrow it down.
Because I know Scott
Solve
Derrickson
it.
did what that was one of his first films. He did one of
Yeah.
the Hellraiser.
So Rick
spin-offs,
Boda
yeah.
did Hellseeker, Deader, and Hellworld. So that could have been Inferno. Could have been Derrickson.
Like I'm bringing it up right now.
James-
I thought I'd be
I'm
quick.
pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm saying you talk
Alright,
about all
James,
these
I'm doing
detectives.
that.
So I'm saying you're bringing up all these detectives. I'm surprised Pinhead didn't show up in this episode of Confession. Just walking
Yeah, I
around
know.
in
That's
that.
what I was
Oh.
thinking too.
Just
He
throw
totally could
Doug
have.
Bradley in it. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I
Don't
mean,
know-
I mean, I totally would have bought that. Karen Hinds' character had the box in his
Yeah,
little apartment.
totally.
You know.
Definitely. Why are you questioning me? Can't you question the guy with the pins in his face and the leather? Why am I the suspect?
Just like
And
Pinhead,
this-
just like working as a janitor in the background.
Yes, yeah.
In the police
yeah,
SWAT
you have
gear.
these Cenobites just kind of in the background. Yeah.
do you know it's not until Hellraiser 3 that someone refers to him as Pinhead, and they're calling him that in a disparaging manner?
Oh wow.
Because
Which is
in
what
the books he was always a hell priest,
Right.
and then and actually in the first in the Hellbound Heart he was very they said he was very gender fluid, like just they never really gave a gender. And if you guys read the comics, spoiler for anyone that doesn't want to read the comics are fantastic, where it's basically Pinhead gets tired of being a Cenobite, and Kirsty Cotton realizes the only way she can have any impact is if she becomes a Cenobite, and they switch roles. And Pinhead becomes human again, and Kirsty Cotton becomes the new Hell Priest.
Fuck yeah.
It's badass.
And it's very, very well done. The comics they did, and all were 100% approved by Clive, and Clive was a consultant for all of them and helped write some of it. So,
Ooh.
just and then my favorite piece of Hellraiser lore, because we have our friend James here from the UK, is that the VHS tape that constantly appears on bus stops. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah, I
No.
saw that.
No.
There's
No,
a
I've not even heard of it.
there is a I'm gonna type VHS copy of. I'm typing this in right now, because there is a copy. There is a. It's on the 21 bus route in London, and they will constantly someone is putting a copy of Hellraiser 1 VHS on top of that at all times.
Like it's
Oh,
like
wow.
gone ruined,
That's
and
rad.
did someone like threw it in the trash and then appeared the next day or something?
That's
No,
rad.
there's actually a reason behind it. Unposted here in our chat. But there's a reason behind it though. If you just go to Google and type in Hellraiser VHS England, it'll pop up.
I think I've got a feeling that I reckon the house that they use in the first one is probably on that bus route.
Oh,
think
wow,
That's
that
what,
makes
I
sense.
think that's what, if it's North London, I think. It's up on the top there. I can only imagine that's it. But let me double check the number 21 bus route. It might not be my local one, but I reckon that's probably the reason why, because it's in, I think it's called Highgate, which is North London. That's where the exterior of the house is.
It's sat atop the bus shelter by Lidl on Old Kent Road.
Oh, Kent Road. Oh no, that's South East London. I think. Well, that's that. Oh, I might have to go and visit that, and then get an authentic picture. I'll get a selfie with me with that
There's the
VHS.
picture.
in
Oh,
it.
that's rad.
Well,
Yeah.
I forgot about it, and then like a month ago, someone posted a new picture of a new VHS copy on top of it because it hadn't happened in a while, and it said all is finally right in the world once again because people were still using Hellraiser fucking VHS tape.
I might have to continue that tradition.
Gotcha.
Like Jada Pinkett Smith's character in Demon Knight, I'll have to be the one that carries on that tradition
Yes.
and put the VHS atop of the bus stop.
Heck
It sounds amazing until that VHS starts going for like $400.
Yeah,
Right. Like need it back.
I might make fake Clive Barker's autograph and just put it inside as well, like that. Add that.
I will
Oh,
say
that'd
if
be
you track
mean,
down, and this is not a knock on Doug Bradley. I think Doug Bradley's one of the of all the people I've met in the whole horror community, Doug Bradley's one of the best.
Oh, cool.
Like I got shit faced with him one time at Palace Station out here in Las Vegas.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, just the nicest fucking
Oh,
guy.
that's rad.
And just wants to talk about, loves horror. He loves the genre. He legit does. But he also understands, like, he wants to make money. So I guarantee if you pay him like $40, he'd probably give you his address and sign it for you. And
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
All right, for our dad advice, James, I was going to ask you to recommend some British made horror that we may not be aware of. So not like, we all know Shaun of the Dead, The Descent, those kind of movies. What or some
Wow.
underrated gems that you'd recommend our audience?
Oh, dear, you put
Like,
me on the spot.
Or what
Or
did you
I'm gonna-
watch? What did you watch growing up that you fell in love with?
I think I generally tend to love the American stuff. I was a bit snooty, and I thought if anything was British or like in the UK rated 15, so like PG-13, I thought, oh, that's not good enough. But then I sort of took my head out of my ass, so it wasn't too bad. I think probably the British horror film that I love the most is I guess a gateway movie is The Witches, the Roald Dahl
Mhm.
adaptation,
Oh,
the
yeah.
original.
It goes
great.
the Necroic one, yeah.
Because it's just so dark. And again, I think I watched it at an age where I just didn't quite understand it, even though it's a kids' film. Like the whole stranger danger, don't talk to strangers. It's that thing with like an adult, don't talk to strangers. Why? Well, just don't do it. You can't tell the consequences of what happens if that happens. But it's that I found that beyond chilling.
When they're all in that room and they're unmasking to their
Ooh,
basically
the
their
best.
witch selves, that's terrifying. Like that's
Oh, so
legit. Like
good.
as an adult, I watch that and go, "Oh, that was no wonder this movie traumatized me as a kid."
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of those, I think Nicholas Rogue added men. A lot of those were men to make it look more intimidating because
wow,
of
I
the
didn't know
sheer
that.
size. And again, sort of like the broad shoulders and such. I think one of them is Michael Palin, who was one of the Monty Python.
Oh,
I think
oh,
he's
he,
in it.
he
wow.
pops up in there.
Yeah, I think it's literally like I don't think he's in it. Well, he's in it, but you don't know it's him. I think he's just making up the numbers effectively.
Right, he's one of the
But
background, yeah. One of the
yeah, but I think
that's
yeah,
fun.
and
Well, yeah,
I'm just trying
because
to think.
I mean, yeah, so many of those would be down to just hang out on set for a day. Yeah, oh yeah, I loved that film as a kid.
Mhm.
It scared the shit out of me, but yeah, and it does. Yeah, what you say, it absolutely was one of those that ingrained in my head. 'Cause I think I was 8 when I saw it. It was that the whole stranger danger. It was like that was more effective than your parents say trying to drill it in your head. I mean, just watching that is like, oh my god, this isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I could be locked in a painting.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
consequences
Oh
of it.
yeah. Man.
Speaking of stranger danger, James, have you seen Eden Lake? with
Oh
Michael
yeah,
Fassbender?
oh god, that's probably
Yeah.
the worst. What is it? What's the like nursery rhyme kind of like fable? It's just yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that
I
movie like
felt
still sticks
That
with
movie
me.
will fuck your day up if you
Yeah.
if you're not expecting what you're about to see.
I had a
Yeah.
friend that I don't see so much anymore, but she would recommend films to watch, but she always, unbeknownst to her, would recommend the ones with the most kind of nihilistic kind of endings.
Oh yeah.
I think she also recommended going to see a film called. It was an early one with. Oh god, my memory's going. I think it was called Victoria. And it's about this girl that goes to a stately house and is married off, but she ends up killing a kid in the very end, like suffocating him. And it's like we're just left raw by it.
God damn.
And my friend has his tendency, not knowing this, but recommended the most nihilistic films that are just
Oh, really?
ruin your day, ruin your week.
That was the time I went to a girl's house and she had the movie Hard Candy with Elliot Page.
Yep.
And I was like, okay.
That's a weird first date kind of thing there. Like,
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
even for me,
but-
I was kind of like, that's a red flag.
speaking of which, have you guys seen Mike Flanagan, who did Fall of the House of Usher
Sure,
and
sure.
Minute Mess? He released on Letterboxd. He has a
yeah.
playlist called the entry level horror films for non horror fans.
Ooh.
Starts off with Gremlins and then goes into Martyrs, a Serbian film, Cannibal Holocaust, like every fucking like horrific film you can think of is on that list.
Oh my! Oh, that's so cruel.
It
Yeah,
was
like
really
those are
funny.
like those three are ones I will probably never watch. I've watched bits and pieces of Cannibal Holocaust. I mean, you don't really need to see all of that movie.
I think Cannibal Holocaust is actually a really, really great
Mhm.
film if you watch the version with no animal deaths in it.
Yeah.
That's not
Okay.
okay to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they are actually trying to say something with that movie in that, like, who's the real, like, we're the savages because we're trying to portray this. I think it's a really great movie, but
Yeah.
I totally get why people be put off by it. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
gonna argue that.
I think it was. I think there's. I agree. I think unlike a lot of films like that, it is at least trying to say something. I think there are films that say it better. I think they literally have to say at the end, "Oh, are we the real cannibals?" I think there
Yeah.
are other films that are able to convey that message without just straight out saying it.
Yeah, but for
Yeah.
the time,
I
For the
respect that.
I
time,
think when it came out,
for the
that was
time,
pretty.
yeah,
I think that was pretty big.
I see what you're
Coming
saying.
back to original point, I've did think of actually a British film that you should check out, a horror film. It played at Fright Fest in London this year, and I think it's done the rounds at a couple of other festivals. It's called Amazing Grace, and it's brilliant. It's about this Filipino woman who's in the UK illegally, and she's sort of trying to buy her kind of asylum there. And she's got a young daughter, and she goes to work at this kind of stately house, whereas the owner there, basically someone's in a sort of vegetative state, and she just has to tend to him effectively, change beds and stuff. And she works for the niece who's not very nice, quite racist. But it's just the kind of story of it. It's horror-esque, but it's brilliant. The performances are amazing. It kind of gets a bit ghostly. I guess it's more horror ingrained in the everyday in terms of kind of the racism and the xenophobia, as opposed to ghosts and things that go bump in the night. But it's brilliant. It's this bittersweet story, this bittersweet tale. If you can recommend it, because the performances, there's no one.
Wait, real fast.
overly
Is it Saving Grace or Amazing Grace?
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace. Okay.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, Amazing Grace. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it was phenomenal. I think it was one of the best films at Fright Fest this year.
Wow.
And it was just go see it. I don't want to say too much about it, but
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's don't expect a full horror kind of like blood on the walls kind of thing. But it's more bittersweet, and it's more the kind of, like I said, ingrained in the everyday horror of just kind of life for some people.
Nice.
I mean,
But
I think
it
the
was brilliant.
at least for me, the older I get, the more those realistic movies without the blood and gore that talk about the daily struggle of man hit me a lot harder now. Because I think we've all, I mean, I'm 40, and Jason's like 55, and I think we've all been through these. We've all been through the rigors of life. So I think, like you mentioned, those sometimes without the blood and gore, those movies hit a lot harder.
Totally.
Yeah. Again, it's being at a certain age, sort of having young children now. Like the three films we just mentioned, Cannibal Holocaust and Serbian Film. I just can't. I don't know. I just can't stomach them anymore. Those sort of films.
Well,
It's
man, a Serbian film was one of the few movies I watched out of curiosity, right? Because of course, when it came out, everyone's just talking about like, you have to see this movie, you're a gorehound. And I watched it, and I was like, no one should ever watch this fucking movie. At least when I watched Cannibal Holocaust. No, don't like,
I can't.
and I hate saying don't watch it because that means some people are like, oh, now I have to see it. Like, no, you really don't need to.
Yeah.
It's I get the director was saying that she was trying to make a commentary about life in that area, but you don't have to put the stuff on screen that you put on there. The same way, though, I'll vilify Regard Diodato for putting animal deaths in the movie, even though it was a tribe killing them for food. I'm still like, you didn't have to film that and put that on celluloid. Like, you could have
100%.
abandoned that and have been okay. And I think Regard Diodato actually said in his later years that he really regrets doing that.
Yeah.
That's
But a Serbian
big of
film,
him.
like, just no one should watch that movie ever.
But yeah, to James's point, it is very interesting how fatherhood, other life events really shape how you take in media, etc. Like I always talk about my example is it, because when the first one came out, I was like around those kids' ages, so that freaked me out. Being really into those characters on that age, and then when the new ones came out, and I have kids who are almost the same age, I feel as a parent a whole other level of fear when I watch that movie.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now that I'm 40, it's not horror movies that do me in. It's like I just cry at everything now. Like I'll see a sad commercial and be like, I gotta reel this in a little bit.
Sitting for too long freaks me. Scares me. Like, how's my back gonna do?
Yeah. Well, some of these films we got. This is the time of year when you've got like Napoleon and movies like that, the Oscar contenders. Some of those that push like 3 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
No, man, there are some great 3-hour movies out there, but they're tough.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're tough to get through.
Right.
I haven't mentioned here, but I saw The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti. And
I just saw that this weekend. Terrific.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But even so, though, I was like, could you have trimmed maybe 15 minutes out of this?
You feel it. You definitely feel it at the end. But it's yeah.
But the more I think about it, though, there is no wasted film in that movie. It's all
really isn't.
poignant, and
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite film of the year, just to be
so
honest.
far, yeah, that's in my top 5 easily. When I love that director Alexander Payne, who did
Yes. Sideways.
Sideways, it was their first film since then together, him and Giamatti, and
Yeah.
The Descendants is terrific. Definitely worth for a non-horror choice. That's definitely worth seeking out. Absolutely.
Okay, well, that wraps up another episode. I want to thank James and Galen for joining us.
Thank you so
Guys,
much.
please tell everyone where people can follow you. Galen, go ahead.
I am on. I'm most active on Instagram at Galen Howard, all one word. I post everything I'm up to or lack thereof, and come say hi.
All right, James.
Probably best to find me on Daily Dead. I would give you my Twitter handle, but my name is a bit of a pain to spell. So if you just go to Daily Dead, I'm probably got a new review or something up there, so you can check out more there from me.
Awesome.
Jason, one thing real fast, just because we're recording this on the 20th. Well, this will come out on December 3rd, so I'm very self-serving here. I just have to wish my only child a happy 21st birthday. My only child will be 21 on Saturday, which makes me feel really fucking old. I was young when I had them, and I'm proud of you. I love you, and you're an awesome kid. And yeah, man, like just keep being you. They'll probably never hear this. No, no, they did say though. They did put a sticker of Dads in the Crypt on their car, and they did hands them out at their work. And it says some of their work, your coworkers out now listen to us. So I'm like,
That's
fuck,
awesome.
now I don't have to watch what I say because there hasn't been any blowback yet. So we'll see. But
happy birthday.
But yeah, happy birthday. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right. Well, next week we'll be covering. Next week we're covering a movie to be determined. We appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate if you give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios.
Bye.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.